More in our celebration of British animation now on BBC4, Ivor the Engine and the story of Smallfilms.
Once upon a time, there were two men who worked in a barn. You may not remember their names, but you probably do remember the things they made there. This is a story of pink fur, Meccano and cardboard, 120 seconds a day, and the return to our screens of a Welsh icon. Smallfilms was a small TV company. So small it had just 2 employees, Oliver Postgate and Peter Firmin. And together they told stories and created worlds that would leave an almost magical impression on generations of British children.
Not very long ago, in the top left-hand corner of Wales, there was a railway.
It's a bit like, you know, memories.
It wasn't a very long railway. It's nostalgic, perhaps, yes,
Yeah.
because it was about something that's past.
Tea time at 20 to 6, and for 5 minutes each night before the news, children all over the country settled down to watch the adventures of Jones the Steam, Di Station, and a friendly little engine called Ivor.
Well, it's time you and Ivor were off to work. It's Grumbly Gasworks today, don't forget.
It's not proper Welsh, you know, it's BBC Welsh. It's a different thing altogether. Came off the Undermilk Wood, that's right, yes. Recording of Undermilk Wood years ago, I heard.
Oh, he got away. Oh, thank goodness for that.
People I knew in North Wales said it was rotten, and some of the people in the valleys said they quite liked it. They accepted it, you know, and I didn't think about it, really. The trouble was when I had to do the Indian who spoke the Bombay Welsh, oh, my jolly gosh, I'm in trouble if I do not find her. And I couldn't actually record the conversation between the two. I had to record them separately and cut the tape together.
Oh, she's bad. Oh, I'm in trouble if I do not find her. Oh, well, you do find her, Bach. Jump on and hold tight.
As in most of their work together, Oliver Postgate wrote the stories, provided some of the voices, and animated the cardboard figures, while Peter Firmin drew all the characters and the backgrounds.
Jones the Steam fetched the tongs and hoisted the thing out of the hole.
I think my original drawings, especially of the towns and the sort of little groups of houses perched on the hillsides, it was really based upon pictures of Wales that I'd seen. I'd been on holiday by Cadair Idris, but never really seen these towns.
Selling chestnuts now, are you, Mr. Jones?
No, Mrs. Williams. Dragons.
Stations exteriors.
Yes, we'll try that.
I'll put it out then, come on. Look at that. I got some blue tack here if you want to stick anything down.
Oh, it's the station in the snow.
No.
These are the engines. Sometimes I coloured them in, sometimes I got my slaves to do it, my daughters to colour them in. There's Idris asleep. There's a little Welsh dragon called Idris. And there are various heads, bodies. There's a head. Looks rather alarmed there.
Good morning, Mr. Di Station. Bore da.
Oh, good morning.
Don't shake hands with him, Di. He's red hot.
Let's see what Di is like. I don't know how many bits I've got. Oh, there he is. Oh, yes, marvellous. There's Di. He's saying regulation.
There must be regulations about that, yes.
You know, Jones, there's regulations. Regulations about the conveyance of livestock.
So you just pull his head off, and you take the other head, and you tuck it in there, and there's a residual bit of blue tack on his collar inside, and you just press it down, and oh, there may be regulations. You can't do that, isn't it?
Come on, Di, run.
Run, is it? Oh, I don't know about that.
And this is how we managed to get through 120 seconds a day, where most studios get through 10 seconds a day.
Never move a mouth.
Oh, we haven't had a mouth. We changed expression. We didn't bother with the mouth. If my expression changed for some reason, I'd take my head completely off and put another one on, you know. Or, I mean, Jones would, you know. Jones the Steam is a sort of central nobody to whom everything happens.
I like Dinwiddie, the gold miner.
Oh, yes,
who
yes.
said, I know, I've been educated, I've read books.
Time was hundreds of years ago when flames and rocks all red hot and boiling flew out of the top of that hill.
Like that, and he would
I'd say, hold that. Draw it.
I've got new teeth.
Or can you do me a hand like this? And he would draw it for me.
I don't want to interfere or anything, but where exactly is my flower?
And my paper hankies and my tin openers and the plastic toys.
All right. You all worry too much.
Before any drawing or animation was started, Oliver would record the character voices and make a complete soundtrack, including the all-important sound effects.
So the sound department said, how did you get that noise of the coal pouring down onto the tip at the gasworks? I said, well, I took a hod full of coal and I tipped it into... Oh, God, they said, yes, of course, it's much too easy, isn't it?
Terribly worried, weren't you, about what he would really be doing? What was the point of this?
That's right. What could an engine do? And I suddenly realised he could sing. He wanted to sing in the choir. Perfectly normal, perfectly ordinary, and so they arranged for him to sing in the choir.
And in Oliver Postgate's fertile imagination, anything was possible.
This is there's the seaside, right out there. And the railway lines were laid on the beach so that Ivor could join in the swimming.
Race you into the sea!
And the Grumbly and District Choral Society, with their first bass, Ivor the Engine, raced down the beach and dived into the sea.
Because we had to cut the card when he went into the water, so then he splashed about so much that the water got into his firebox and put him out, and they had to push him back onto the shore.
They raced backwards and forwards, having a marvellous time, until the splashing put his fire out, and they had to push him back onto the beach.
Although Ivor the Engine was shown by the BBC in colour in the 1970s, it wasn't the first time he'd been on TV. That was in 1959, in black and white, shown by Associated Rediffusion on ITV.
Morning, Dye Station. Morning, Jones. Morning, Ivor. How's your tubes?
Now, over 40 years after he first appeared, Ivor has returned to help BBC Wales promote its newest service.
BBC2 W. It's in the forefront of progress.
With scripts by Oliver Postgate and new characters drawn by Peter Firmin, a small team of animators in Cardiff are using modern techniques to recreate the handmade feel of the episodes from the 70s.
3 of us have been working on this, 3 animators, and we've all learnt a huge amount. Ivor the Engine was originally done, on film, and it was all sort of done in a shed with sort of sellotape and elastic bands and things. So one part of you thinks, oh well, if we're doing it on computers, it's going to take 10 minutes. But the reality is there's a huge amount of sort of artistry in the original ones, and so we've had to sort of unlearn a lot of the computer shortcuts to actually try and match the charm of the originals.
Ivor the Engine. Look, there he is.
We went through the scripts for the promos, and where the original artwork existed, that's what we've used, and probably 90% of the artwork is original. I mean, you just see the care that's taken, with the sort of the shading and all the artistry that goes into it. They really are great drawings.
There he is, look, rolling along to the signal box on the way to Grumbly Town.
So this is the background we used for the Mr. Rees promo. There's the bakers, and this is Mr. Rees's television shop. Obviously, digital TV for Wales is a new addition that Peter drew onto the drawing for us.
No, Ivor, I've told you dozens of times. You can't go slamming on your brakes just when you fancy to.
Ivor's voice, as in the original, is provided by a bassoon.
What have you seen? Digital TV for Wales.
And Oliver Postgate and Anthony Jackson are back to play all the other parts.
No regulations, is it? I've had 30 years of regulations, and now I'm watching BBC2W.
Well, Ivor and I have got work to do.
You should watch it. It's digital TV for Wales.
Once upon a time, not so long ago,
there was a little girl, and her name was Emily. And she had a shop. There it is.
Depending on when you were born, a mention of Noggin the Nog or Pogle's Wood might touch a nostalgic nerve. But a whole generation of children hold a special affection for one saggy old cloth cat.
Bagpuss, dear Bagpuss, old fat furry cat puss, wake up and look at this thing that I bring. Wake up, be bright, be golden and light. Bagpuss, oh hear what I sing.
Come on out then. Come on in. There you are. You haven't moved since I last saw you. Must be a reason for that. There he is. Oh.
The idea was that he was going to be a cat that lives in a children's hospital, and to entertain the children he had visible thoughts which appeared like a bubble above his head. And this was his sailor's thinking cap.
Oh, that's right.
Which I like. That's the one I like best.
That's the best one, yes.
When he told the story of the ship in the bottle.
That is nothing but a rotten old bottle.
Every week, a new object would arrive in the shop, and the fiendishly knowledgeable Professor Yaffle was always first on the scene.
He's got little holes through his toes, and I take this inch tin tack, which is an almost extinct form of ironmongery, and stick it through my thumb, and then he would stay out of balance a little bit. Mind you, his joints have got so rackety over the years, and then I would move him one frame at a time and go back, click, and then click, round, click, 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 click.
He climbed down off his bookend and went to see what it was that Emily had brought. A box. Yes.
This is
The
the
mill.
chocolate biscuit mill, which produced chocolate biscuits from breadcrumbs
and butter beans.
and
You
butter beans.
can't produce them from breadcrumbs and butter beans. It's impossible.
Now, please do be serious.
And the chocolate biscuits are put in here,
They roll down through.
roll down and come out the front. Everything had to be something I could make, or pinch, or borrow, or something.
That's right.
Chocolate biscuits. Oh, ridiculous. Fiddlesticks and flapdoodle. There is no such thing as a mill that makes chocolate biscuits.
You mice will have to think of something better than that. What did he say? Oh, fiddlesticks and flapdoodle.
That's right. Because he has a little magnet in his beak, which holds his beak shut. We don't like people walking around with their mouths open, so he has a little magnet to hold it shut.
The marvellous mechanical mouse organ.
We recorded them 1.5 times up. So we sang, "We will wash it, we will splosh it."
We will wash it, we will splash it.
And the one which is out of tune is me.
We will pack it and wash it. We will dust it, we will brush it. We will polish it, we will...
Now with Gabriel, he's got works underneath him, which means he can actually move his mouth, because it's a song, you know, he sang songs and therefore it's difficult to do that single frame. It was better for me to go around behind and Oliver would film him live and I'd work the things with
Play the
hands and
music
feet.
too.
I saw a ship a-sailing on the sea, and oh, but it was laden with pretty things for thee. There were comforts in...
You see, they have little spikes. The heads are made of, excuse me, little wooden beads with a bit of felt on, but they're like that so they can turn and their arms move because they're made of copper wire, and the tail is also made of wire.
They're lovely to animate actually because they've got so little movement and they've got no feet and they rush around on these little spikes. They're really beautiful to use.
10, 11, 12.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, oh, stop.
Row, row, row the boat softly on the floor. Flippity, floppity, slippity, sloppity.
Each episode contained a song or a story within it, which often allowed Oliver to animate figures cut out from painted cardboard, the technique he'd used in Noggin the Nog, and again with Ivor the Engine.
It's time for working now, not for singing.
Bagpuss was first shown in 1974, and life in the shop sometimes reflected life in the world outside.
Mice like to sing. Mice not sing. Mice not work. Mice strike.
Oh, indeed. Oh, all right, mice. You can sing as long as you work as well.
We will smooth it, we'll improve it, we will polish it, pink, pink, pink. We will hush it, velvet plush it. That is better now, don't you think? That is better now, don't you think?
Compared to today's programmes, Bagpuss was made on the smallest of budgets. A stable doubled up as a studio, and even the shop front was really a window in Peter's house. These are the original photographs from the title sequence of Bagpuss, featuring Peter's daughter, Emily.
There she is. Not changed much.
Without the big budgets and staff of the larger animation studios, Oliver and Peter, working from an old barn and a stable, still managed to produce some of the BBC's most memorable programmes.
All that used to be my studio, that whole block there, but this bit now belongs to the horse.
Bagpuss gave a big yawn and settled down to sleep. Just an old, saggy cloth cat, baggy and a bit loose at the seams. But Emily loved him.
There's 40 years of assorted tins. I haven't the slightest idea what's in them. One day I'm going to have to go through that lot. This is the press button. Click, 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 click. That connection there made all the Ivor the Engine films. And when I was wanting to leave the camera running, I turned it on its back, so it went on clicking until I came back. Yes, this was the instrument I had in my hand for years and years.
One of television's true pioneers, Oliver Postgate worked alone, animating and editing everything himself. When he needed a device or a piece of equipment that couldn't be bought anywhere, he could usually rely on ingenuity or Meccano to solve the problem.
This is the joy of my life when I made it. This is a resistance device, and it did a 40-frame dim. Every time I clicked the camera, this turned around once, and it moved this one tick. So the light gradually went down, and then when it came to do it again, I reversed the rubber band on this, and it gradually came up again. Highly technical and made out of absolute junk.
Back in 1969, the TV world kept spinning without focus groups and pre-testing of programme ideas. Would a series featuring a soup dragon, blue string pudding, sky moos and froglets be made today? The Clangers, a true reflection of its time.
In the 70s there was this terrible fashion. Twiggy and people like that used to wear this sort of, these dresses made of little pieces of plastic joined together with rings, and things like that. So that influenced me slightly with the Clangers costumes. Right. And also my wife had just bought a new zigzag sewing machine.
And the knitted outside concealed an even stranger mechanism inside.
Ah, yes, that's the one.
A skeleton. That's it.
Yeah.
How they move.
The actual works of it. These are Meccano on the arms with little bits in between, and it's stiff, you see, it stays where it's put, and that, if you imagine that stuffed inside a clanger, you could put his arms exactly where you want.
This is the father of the family, Major Clanger, and that's that's his second wife.
His first wife was stolen.
The BBC had an exhibition in the 60s of the Clangers as part of their thing, and they had them all wired up and, you know, tough security, but someone pinched Mother Clanger. The music boat is their little boat that they go through space in, and it's powered by a rising scale of notes.
In the year that Apollo 11 landed on the moon, the BBC asked Smallfilms to make a children's space series. Whether they quite expected the Clangers is open to debate.
A little trumpet.
While one half of Smallfilms did his usual job of writing, narrating, recording sound effects and animating, it was left to Peter to invent and make a collection of strange space beings, like the friendly iron chicken.
She was shot down by a rocket. What came down was a head and a wing and a body and a tail, and then the Clangers put her together.
And she said, "Oh, thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much."
And a very polite iron chicken it is too.
We cleared out our studios and wired it all together and then sprayed it silver, and that was the iron chicken's nest. Got rid of a lot of junk. And this is a froglet. Looks up, looks down, very shyly. That's the soup dragon. She did suffer a bit from moulting occasionally when she lost a few scales, but I had to glue them back on again. They're only glued on.
He's fallen in the soup.
People used to say, "How did you get the voice of the soup dragon?" If you know what I mean. It's a Swanee whistle. Swanee whistle. And it was written out in full in English, and Stephen Sylvester and I sat opposite each other and we played it onto the tape. And then I had to edit it, which was a very devil because I couldn't work out what they were saying.
So you actually bothered to write out a whole script?
Every single word, yes.
On one occasion, Oliver was summoned to the BBC to explain a line of the script.
Oh, sod it, the bloody thing stuck again. Got into trouble for that.
The line is still there in episode 3. And just where did these fantastic stories come from?
No, I never thought about it.
No,
it's just whatever came out of the mud, you know. It's like going out shrimping, you know. You take the net and run it through the mud and you see what you've got in it when you get to the end. Old boots, soup dragons, all sorts of rubbish. Tip it out and use it.
A favourite in the lists of cult TV programmes, the Clangers always bordered on the surreal, such as this episode where a Gladstone bag is lonely until a friendly ladybag arrives to cheer him up.
We kept each other going because, I mean, if he was sort of a bit short of ideas, I'd come up with something, and if I hadn't got any ideas, then he'd have a new one. So, you know, it's good to have two minds adding things.
The Clangers was easily Smallfilms' strangest programme, but it shares with the others like Bagpuss and Ivor the Engine the deceptive skill of Oliver Postgate's animation and the brilliance of Peter Firmin's designs.
I was supposed to be a real artist.
Yeah, I was not supposed to be real anything, so that was all right.
Television has moved on from the world of Smallfilms, but few programmes have the same power to take us back to a simpler, safer time.
I don't think anybody would be foolish enough to do what we did. Well, they wouldn't get away with it if they did, because we were part of the primitive origins of television.